In 1840, a young woman named Martha was sold, not once, not twice, but over and over again. Every time she gave birth, her children were taken, her body treated like a number. 5 plantations, 4 children, countless sales. But what the overseers didn't know, one woman can break any system. Her name was Martha, and the math they trusted failed. April 14th, 1840. Charleston, South Carolina. The wooden auction platform creaked under the weight of history. Old blood soaked into its grain, old screams trapped between its nails. A 19-year-old black woman stepped forward when her number was called. Barefoot, thin, silent. Her hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from understanding. She could read. And in this place, knowledge was dangerous. The auctioneer did not describe her face. He described her utility. Strong body, he said. Healthy. No defects. A pause. And she can read. That was when the price jumped. $800. Men leaned forward. Not because she was rare, but because she was profitable. A plantation owner asked the only question that mattered. How long before she breeds? The auctioneer smiled. She's young. The hammer fell. That sounded not just sell Martha. It activated a system. The first plantation was Willow Creek. It was neat, efficient, quiet in the way graveyards are quiet. The overseer, Thomas Bell, believed pain was wasteful. Fear was cheaper. Martha was assigned lighter work at first. Counting sacks, reading labels, keeping track of supplies. Bell watched her closely, not as a man watches a person, but as an investor watches a machine. 2 months later, he wrote one line in his ledger. Female. Prime age. No one told Martha what that meant. She learned soon enough. Where pregnancy became visible, Bell did not react. He simply adjusted numbers. Food portions. Labor expectations. Future value. When a child was born, a girl, the baby was taken within minutes. Not because the child was unwanted, because attachment reduced efficiency. 3 weeks later, Martha stood on another platform. Her price this time was $600. Same woman, same body, different condition. The trader smiled. Post-birth, he said, normal reduction. Martha was sold before her milk dried. The second plantation was worse. Red Ash Farm did not pretend to be civilized. Tobacco burned the lungs. Overseers drank. Whips cracked daily. Here, Martha understood something terrifying. No one asked where her first child went. No one cared. An old slave named Eli noticed the marks on her wrists, the way she stayed silent. They moving you fast, he said. I don't know why, Martha answered. Eli shook his head slowly. No, you produce. Her second pregnancy came quickly. Too quickly. The boy was born weak. He was carried away before Martha could touch him. This time, she was sold within days. $550. Eli watched the wagon leave. They ain't selling you, he whispered. They rotating you. The third plantation revealed the truth. Hawthorne Bend kept better records. That was its mistake. Martha was ordered to clean the main house. Dust shelves, wipe desks, and there, open on a table, were the ledgers. She read them in fragments. A date here, a name there, a pattern forming. Women sold only after childbirth. Never before. Always after. She traced the margins with her eyes. Birth. Sale. Birth. Sale. Not punishment. Not coincidence. A schedule. Her third child was born during a storm. Thunder shook the cabins. Martha whispered a name she would never speak again. 3 days later, she was sold. $480. Her value was dropping, but the system was working perfectly. By the fourth plantation, Martha's body was failing. Stone Ridge broke people. When her fourth pregnancy nearly killed her, a doctor was summoned, not to save her life, but to protect the investment. She'll survive, he said. Enough. The child lived. A girl. $400. Martha was 25 years old. Her body was tired. The math was not. Black Hollow was different. Smarter. Cleaner. Its overseer was educated. Curious. Dangerous. He studied Martha's file carefully. 5 plantations. For births. For sales. He underlined a phrase. Exceptional output. That was when Martha understood the full horror. She was not a woman in their eyes. She was a repeatable process. Her fifth pregnancy began before the year ended. And for the first time, Martha did something the system never planned for. She decided the pattern would stop, even if it meant breaking herself to do it. Black Hollow did not beat its slaves often. It didn't need to. Fear worked better when it was quiet. The overseer's name was Edward Crow. Young, educated, precise, proud. He believed slavery was not about cruelty. It was about management. Numbers. Timing. Control. When Martha arrived, Crow spent an entire night reading her file. 5 plantations in 7 years. For births. For immediate sales. Consistent spacing. Crow smiled. This one, he said to himself, is reliable. Martha was assigned to indoor work again. Not as a reward, but as surveillance. Crow wanted her close. He wanted to see how a woman like her behaved once she understood her purpose. He tested her. He left books open, papers unattended, ledgers half-covered. Martha never touched them, but she read everything. Crow noticed. "You're quiet," he said one evening. Martha lowered her eyes. "Yes, sir. You understand what you are, don't you?" Martha said nothing. Crow leaned closer. "You're valuable. That's rare. Valuable." That word followed her like a shadow. Her 5th pregnancy was different. Her body was weaker now. Pain came earlier, stayed longer. Crow noticed immediately. He adjusted her rations. Not out of kindness, out of calculation. A healthy birth increases resale speed, he noted. That was when Martha began her rebellion. It was not loud, not dramatic. It was slow, calculated, silent. She ate less. She moved carefully. She delayed. Not enough to draw suspicion, but enough to disrupt the schedule. Crow noticed the delay in her condition. "Something's off," he muttered. He ordered closer monitoring. Women were assigned to watch her, to report changes, to ensure the formula held. But formulas break when variables change. Martha spoke less, slept less, thought more. At night, she whispered to other women, not about escape, but about records. "They write everything," she said quietly. "That's how they trap us." One woman laughed bitterly. "Words don't save us." "No, Martha replied. But they expose them." Crow grew impatient. The pregnancy was progressing too slowly. Profit depended on timing. He called for the doctor. "Can she deliver on schedule?" he asked. The doctor hesitated. "Her body's failing." Crow frowned, then speeded up. The doctor understood. Martha understood too. That night, as pain twisted her body, she made a final decision. If the system needed her alive, she would deny it that satisfaction. The birth was chaos. The child, the boy, was still. Silence filled the room. Crow stared. No crying, no movement, no product. The doctor stepped back slowly. Crow said nothing at first. Then he laughed. "Unfortunate," he said, "but acceptable." Martha's heart shattered, but her mind stayed sharp, because she knew something Crow didn't. A stillbirth broke the pattern. No child meant no immediate sale. No sale meant attention, and attention meant risk. Crow wrote in his ledger that night. Loss recorded. Irregularity noted. Irregularity. That word would haunt him, because now the math didn't add up, and systems hate anomalies. The women at Black Hollow noticed. Quietly, almost imperceptibly, things began to shift. Pregnancies slowed. Deliveries became unpredictable. Midwives whispered. Overseers complained. Productivity slipped. Crow blamed weather. Then discipline. Then luck. He never blamed Martha. That was his mistake. Within a year, Crow was transferred. Not punished, promoted. Black Hollow's numbers were still strong on paper. Losses explained away. Ledger clean. Too clean. Crow took his books with him, confident no one would ever care enough to read them. He was right. For a long time. Martha was sold one last time, not for breeding, but for labor. Her body was spent. Her value nearly gone. There was no ceremony this time. No platform. No crowd. Just a signature. After that, she vanished. No death record. No burial note. No final sale. The system had no column for women who broke it. For more than a century, the ledger sat untouched. Dust thickened. Ink faded. Names lost meaning. Until 2009, the historian wasn't looking for her. He was researching cotton exports, trade routes, Plantation efficiency. He opened Crow's ledger by accident. At first, it looked ordinary. Then he noticed the spacing. Birth, sale, birth, sale. Too consistent. He traced one name through the pages. Martha. 5 plantations. 5 entries. For births. For sales. And then, nothing. A gap. No explanation. No correction. Just silence. The historian stared at the page longer than he should have. He ran the numbers again. Cross-reference plantations. Owners. Traders. That was when the truth surfaced. This wasn't cruelty alone. It was strategy. A rotating system designed to extract maximum value from women's bodies while minimizing emotional attachment, resistance, and accountability. And one woman had disrupted it. Not with violence. Not with escape. But by refusing to complete the equation. Martha never wrote her story. But she changed theirs. And the ledger never recovered. The historian flipped the fragile ledger carefully, as if touching it might break more than paper. Every line of ink, every number, every tiny scratch told the story of a system perfected over decades, and the woman who had outsmarted it. Martha's name appeared in neat columns 5 times. Births, sales, plantations. For births. For immediate sales. And then a blank space. No sale after her last recorded pregnancy. No record of death. No transfer. Just silence. The historian leaned back, heart pounding. It didn't make sense. Every other woman followed the formula perfectly. Every child sold. Every woman rotated. Only Martha had broken the pattern. He ran the numbers. Checked the dates. Verified the plantations. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Martha had refused. She had resisted silently, without shouting, without escaping. She had used the one weapon they could never measure, her mind, her timing, her control over what they assumed was a predictable machine. The ledger didn't say where she went. It didn't say how she survived or if she survived. The system had no column for anomaly. But it did show the cracks she had left, gaps in the rhythm of their cruel arithmetic, spots where the formula no longer added up, where the plantation owners lost certainty, and with it, power. The historian paused. In that silence, the centuries seemed to compress. The numbers on the page were not just a record. They were a confession. Every figure was a story. Every sale a crime. And Martha, she had rewritten the ledger without leaving a word. He took photographs, scanned pages, cross-referenced census records, birth registers, and sale notes. Nothing matched her after Black Hollow. And yet, the evidence of her defiance was unmistakable. She had been counted, calculated, rotated, sold, and yet somehow she had survived the system that treated humans as numbers. She had escaped their formula, not by running, not by fighting, but by becoming the irregularity the machine could not process. Across the plantations, the overseers had believed in precision, in repetition, in predictability. That was the point of their cruelty, to make human life measurable, disposable, and replaceable. But Martha had broken that principle. Her body, her mind, her timing, all defied their arithmetic. The ledger's pages told a second story when examined closely. Small annotations in the margins, faded pencil marks, subtle crossouts. These weren't errors. They were evidence of oversight, of panic, of confusion. When a formula failed, Crow and his predecessors had tried to patch it with numbers. But Martha was outside their control. The historian leaned closer. The edges of the paper crumbled slightly under his fingers. He could almost feel the centuries of silence pressing down on him. And then he understood something terrifying. Systems this complex fail quietly, not with violence, but with gaps. And gaps, once noticed, can unravel the entire structure. He documented the plantations in order. Willow Creek, Red Ash Farm, Hawthorne Bend, Stone Ridge, Black Hollow. For each, the pattern was visible. Birth, sale, birth, sale. For generations traced and broken. And in every one, Martha's name appeared, until the final entry, a gap. No one had known she existed beyond these columns of ink. No newspapers reported her. No records marked her death. The system erased her. But paradoxically, that erasure became her legacy. She existed in absence, in the margins, in the failure of the formula. He cross-referenced the names of the overseers. Bell, Crow, others long dead. Their calculations had relied on her productivity. Their ledgers were meticulous, mechanical, perfect, until Martha introduced irregularity. A missing child, a delayed pregnancy, resistance that was imperceptible, yet catastrophic. The historian felt the weight of it. This was not merely a human story of slavery. It was a case study in the collapse of systems built on dehumanization. Numbers were used to control, but a single anomaly, one woman's defiance, had proved more powerful than centuries of calculation. He traced one passage repeatedly, reading Martha's entries, imagining the life behind each line. She had borne children only to have them taken away, each birth logged as a transaction, each sale calculated, expected, normalized. And then the stillbirth, the missing child, the broken rhythm. That was her rebellion. Silent, invisible, untraceable. The historian documented every detail. Margins, dates, prices, plantation names. And as he worked, he felt a strange connection to her. Across the centuries, across oppression and cruelty, a mind had outmaneuvered a machine. Not through force, not through escape, not through violence, but through disruption of expectation. He knew he could not reconstruct her life fully. There were no records, no letters, no photographs. Only numbers, only gaps, only silence. And yet, that silence spoke louder than any voice could. The ledger itself seemed almost sentient now, holding both the story of oppression and the secret of defiance. The historian realized Martha's survival, her true victory, was in the space left unrecorded. In the archives, shadows lengthened. The sun outside set over empty streets. The historian whispered the name aloud, almost involuntarily. Martha! And in that moment, across time, her story resonated. Not with violence, not with spectacle, but with the quiet, unmeasured power of a single human mind defying a system designed to destroy it. He knew that any study of plantations, of slavery, of human exploitation could never be complete without acknowledging her. She was the anomaly, the gap, the failure that proved the truth. Systems can be powerful, but they are not infallible. The historian closed the ledger, careful to preserve the fragile pages. He sat in silence. Outside, centuries of injustice and cruelty loomed in the air like ghosts. But in the ledger, in the gaps, in the margins, Martha's defiance remained. A quiet victory, a story never fully told, yet undeniable. The ledger lay open on the historian's desk, its fragile pages yellowed with age. Each line of ink, each number, each scratched annotation told a story of exploitation, calculation, and control. And yet, between those lines, there was something extraordinary, a pattern interrupted. Martha's name appeared 5 times, tied to 5 plantations. Each entry detailed births, sales, and assignments, meticulously recorded. For children sold, for transactions completed. And then, a gap. A space where the system's logic failed. A woman's rebellion encoded not in words, but in absence. The historian traced her name repeatedly. There were no follow-up sales, no death record, no burial note, just silence. He felt the enormity of it. For centuries, the system had believed it was infallible. Women were predictable. Bodies were measurable. Lives were interchangeable. But Martha had refused to conform. She had exploited the one vulnerability the machine never accounted for: human unpredictability. She had survived, not by force, not by escape, not by loud defiance, but by disruption. She became the anomaly, the gap, the irregularity that could not be processed. The historian leaned closer to the ledger. He ran his fingers along the faded ink, imagining the life behind the numbers. Every birth recorded, every child sold, every move calculated, until the stillbirth, the delay, the deviation. That was her rebellion. Silent, invisible, yet devastating. The ledger's margins told stories too. Faint pencil marks, smudged annotations, adjustments, crossed-out figures. They revealed panic, confusion, and attempts to correct what could not be corrected. Martha had become a variable that no overseer could control. He thought about Crow. Edward Crow had been confident, precise, educated. He had believed in numbers, in control, in predictability. But Martha had outmaneuvered him. His meticulous ledgers, once symbols of dominance, now contained the proof of failure. Outside the archive, the day turned to dusk. Shadows stretched long over the empty halls. The historian felt as if he could hear the echoes of the past, the cries of the children, the murmurs of the women, the silent calculation of profit and loss. And through it all, Martha's quiet defiance resonated. He documented everything: the plantations, the entries, the missing information. Each piece was a testament not just to cruelty, but to resilience, to survival, to the power of one human being to defy a system built to erase her. The historian realized something profound. Martha's story would never appear in textbooks or public records. She would not have monuments erected in her honor. No one would celebrate her survival. And yet, in the ledger, her victory was undeniable. Martha had rewritten the system without writing a word. She had turned her body, her timing, and her defiance into a weapon of survival. In the centuries that followed, the ledger lay untouched, dust collecting over its pages. But the story persisted, waiting for someone to notice, to interpret, to understand. And now, in 2009, that someone had. The historian whispered her name aloud. Martha. The sound seemed to hang in the air, suspended between past and present, a recognition of triumph hidden in absence. She had survived horrors designed to break her, endured losses that would crush ordinary souls, and yet had left a mark no machine could erase. He imagined her walking free, unseen, unknown, across land she had once been sold through. A ghost not of death, but of persistence, not of violence, but of defiance. The ledger, once a tool of oppression, now carried her story. It was a story of resistance, hidden in plain sight. The gaps in the pages spoke louder than any inked line. They told the tale of a woman who refused to be reduced to numbers, who refused to be predictable, and who refused to allow her existence to be fully consumed by cruelty. Every future reader who stumbled upon the ledger would see her in absence. They would see the power of irregularity, the strength of survival, the defiance of one human mind against an entire system. The historian sat back. The air was thick with silence. The story could never be told fully, yet it had already spoken volumes. He understood, at last, that Martha's life, erased in official records, had become immortal in her defiance. No one would know her face. No one would know her voice. But they could see her impact, the cracks in the machine, the failures of the system, the undeniable truth that a single woman had outsmarted centuries of calculation. And as the sun set over the archive, the historian closed the ledger gently, leaving the story intact. The shadows of the past seemed to stretch long and quiet, filled with the weight of what had been endured and the quiet triumph of what could not be broken. Martha's story was now part of history, not in textbooks, not in monuments, but in the one place she had left her mark, the ledger, the silent testimony of a system that failed to account for her. And somewhere, beyond time, her presence lingered, not as a victim, not as a number, but as a mind unbroken, a will unyielding, a soul unconquered.